First, cover the news, and then cover updates. First off, the market is really doing very well so far in the first 6 months of the year. As a matter of fact, Realtor.com gave us this information. Number one, nationwide, total home sales are up 5% compared to the first half of 2015. Overall, we had the best spring in a decade, and summer's looking pretty good also. Year-to-date, new home sales nationwide for sale are up 3.9%. Excuse me, that is for New Jersey. And contracted sales are up 18% in New Jersey. However, the inventory year-to-date is down by 18%. New Jersey market, single-family sales are up 18%, and condos year-to-date are up 11.7%. Monmouth County, total single-family sales year-to-date are up 19.7%, a little bit higher than New Jersey. Days on market have increased a little bit from 63 to 78. The Monmouth County total condo sales year-to-date are up 13%, and also the days on market are slightly increasing. So for some individual towns, such as Seabright, single family is static, the same as last year, and condo sales are down. Certainly still feeling the effects from the Superstorm Sandy 4 years later. For Long Branch, which has become a destination place and is another story, the single family sales year-to-date are up 36.7%, and the condos are up 20%, with an inventory supply that is diminishing. For the town of Rumson, sales are significantly up by 42%. However, inventory supply is increasing from 11 months in June to 13 months in July. This next slide is going to show the existing home sales nationwide. So the appreciation has restored home equity for many homeowners, encouraging them to sell and to buy again, which is exactly what we're looking for. And ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to give you a graph on the existing home sales and pending home sales so we can compare how far we have come over the last couple of years. The gray that you see on the right is 2014, and that's the number of sales. Overlaid over that is 2015, and we can see it's outside of last November. Every single month beat 2014. And then we have 2016, the dark blue at the top. And every month so far, we've beaten 2015. So we're really doing very well, and we're blowing a lot of numbers out of the water, which makes, hopefully, for the end of the year, a very promising year. Pending sales is the same situation, except for last month. We fell a little bit behind 2015, the first time we didn't beat the same month year before 2 years. This month we're just about the same as 2015. Now, I don't think that the pending sales are doing as well because there's not enough buyers out there. I believe that we still have an inventory shortage that we have to work on, as seen with New Jersey, we're down 18%. The good news is that the prices are going up, so some of the inventory is going to be coming back to market. And even Lawrence Yun, the National Association of Realtors chief economist, states that the modest bump in June sales to first-time home buyers can be attributed to mortgage rates near all-time lows, and perhaps a hopeful indication that affordable, lower-priced homes are beginning to make their way into the market. Now let's take a look at two maps, the seller traffic map in May and the seller traffic map in June. What we can see, ladies and gentlemen, is that the dark blue states are showing very strong seller traffic, meaning people are starting to list their homes. So in May we had 13 states that were either strong or very strong, and then this past month in June we've had 20 states that are strong or very strong. The nationwide housing supply year over year for the last 12 months, the housing supply over the last 12 months has been below where we were the year before. So though we've made up a lot of ground in June, we're still almost 6% below where we were last year this month. So what do we know? There are more and more people selling, there are more and more people purchasing, and there are more and more people putting their homes under the contract. But we don't have as many homes for sale as we did last year nationwide, and that can create a challenge. Another way of looking at it is Realtor.com went ahead and said, okay, let's take a look at the summer 2016 versus summer 2015. Demand for housing this summer is up 13% according to Realtor.com, while supply of homes is down 5%. So we're still not out of the woods, ladies and gentlemen, by any stretch of the imagination. We know there's still a lot of excitement about people purchasing homes, even though the economy is not doing well. We just got some numbers last week showing that the dismal growth of the economy. Remember, over the last couple of months, all the economists and all the experts are calling for the housing market to remain strong even when the economy is not doing so well. And as a matter of fact, Peter Muyo, the 10X chief economist, states that more jobs are being added while unemployment continues to drop and low mortgage rates are enticing home buyers. So solid demand should continue to fuel the housing market. And in the last home buyer pulse survey, this is what people are talking about who are not currently homeowners but are considering purchasing a home in the next 5 years. This is what the survey shows. 77% cited that the rates are the most important factor when purchasing a home in the next 5 years. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about mortgage rates that have leveled out and actually are starting to pick up. That could cause another wave of buyers coming to the market. And 35% of the millennials are putting less than 20% down. That's great news, ladies and gentlemen, because the more they get educated to the fact that they do not need 20% down, it's going to be easier for us to help them. And 63% will buy a home in the next 2 years, with 21% already looking. As Sterling White, the co-founder of Holdfolio, said, houses are tangible. You can physically see and feel the product, so you know where your money is going. It's going into that house. And that's what makes people feel comfortable about investing in homes. And let's just take a look at 3 recent surveys. In this side, percentage of those surveyed who think each of the following is an excellent investment. 49% of the people surveyed think almost 1 out of 2 that owning your own home is an excellent investment. And if you look at the third column on the list, 16% think that owning other real estate is also an excellent investment. So ladies and gentlemen, people purchasing their first house or people moving up into the home that they want or moving down into the home that they want, that's showing that people believe in the American dream, not just from the social benefits of owning a home, but from the financial benefits. And a Gallup poll a couple of months ago showed that if you compare it against each other, Americans' choice for best long-term investment is in fact real estate. They picked that over stocks and mutual funds. So which would be the best way to invest money you would need in 10 years from now? 25% said real estate. Again, real estate was the #1 choice as a great investment. So houses are selling. People are saying they're going to continue to buy. Now, some people might be saying, but wait a minute, Gloria, we've read headlines saying that home ownership rate is actually declining. I want you to understand what the home ownership rate really means, because it doesn't mean that the number of homeowners are declining. So let me give you an example. If you have 6 friends that owned a home, and let's presume that you had 3 friends that are currently renting. In this scenario, 6 out of your 9 friends are homeowners. That means the home ownership rate amongst your friends is 67%. Now let's assume that you had 4 more friends living with their parents. We've already established that your friends that are already out on their own are either a homeowner or a renter, which equates to 67%. Now let's assume that your friends are living with their parents and they start to jump into a household of their own and they leave their parents' house. And then 2 of them jumped over to be renters and only 1 of your friends can afford to buy a house right now. So now you have 7 friends that are homeowners and you have 5 friends that are not. The number of friends you have that are homeowners went up by 1. And let's take a look at what home ownership rate of your friends are. It now drops down to 58%. So understand that the home ownership rate doesn't mean that there are less people that own a home, because the number of households starting is more and more people move out of their parents' home. Most of them start as renters, so for over the next year or so, we're going to see most people jumping out of their parents' home and jumping into a rental, and that's going to continue to lower the home ownership rate. Once they get to a point where they've paid off their student loans, they're getting married, they're having kids, and they're going to jump from the renter pool over to the home ownership pool, that is going to cause the number to go back up again. I don't want you thinking that home ownership rate is going down. It's just that the number of homeowners are not going down. That's not the case. And the reason this is important is because we have to help them out. Let me tell you why. In one simple graph, take a look at the average effect of rent in the United States since 2009 and how much it has climbed. Now we can see that if you have a friend who's renting right now, or a son and a daughter of a friend, the rent is stifling them, and you and I have to help them so that we can get them out of their parents' home and they can get into a house of their own. But if not, and they move into a rental, let's get them out of the rental situation as quickly as we can. Especially because if we take a look at what is in the lower end apartments, the year-over-year increase in rent in the top 15 markets in this country has really climbed. Meaning that if they're moving out into an apartment of their own, they're moving into the lower end rentals, and the rent increase is way higher. It is important that we help them understand that they may be able to go ahead and purchase a home instead of renting. As a matter of fact, from GoBankingRates.com, here's a map of the entire United States. And let's take a look at all those dark blue states which are actually cheaper to own than it is to rent. New Jersey is cheaper to own than rent. Now the light blue states, it's a little cheaper to own. But if you take a look at across the whole board, there we can see that the vast majority of the country is in some shade of blue. Now the states where it is cheaper to rent versus buy, Montana, Utah, Idaho, Colorado, and Hawaii. These are only 5 states in the entire country where it is cheaper to rent than it is to own. I'm not sure the young people understand that, ladies and gentlemen, and this map is set up with a 20% down payment. So it's going to be different if they put down less than 20%. And the reason I'm bringing this up, ladies and gentlemen, is we have to help these young people. Part of the reason they're not purchasing a home is many of them still believe that you need 20% down payment to purchase. This is directly from Freddie Mac. 3 steps to 3% down. 1. Talk to your agent lender. Find out what is required for a 3% down mortgage and take the steps necessary to qualify. 2. Plan to live in the home. One of the biggest requirements is the fact that you must live in the home you are buying in order to qualify. 3% down mortgages are not for investors. 3. Gather the down payment. Find out if the savings you already have will be enough to get into your dream home. And if not, find out what other sources you may be able to use to make your dream a reality. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you think about putting a down payment on a house versus renting, you need first month's rent, last month's rent, a security deposit, and in many cases a commission to the broker. When you add that money up, that's not far off from a 3% down payment on an average priced home in this country. That's what we have to make sure that they're thinking about. Not everyone should be a homeowner right now, I get that. But those that should, you and I need to help. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we're hearing a lot in the election year about the divide between those that have and those that don't. What U.S. Representative from Massachusetts Mike Capuano said is true. The way into the middle class for many people, including me, is home ownership. And that is crucially important that we understand that. The faster we get people into their first home, the quicker they can start building wealth for their family, the quicker they can start building equity in that home, and equity that could be later used for their kids for college tuition, for down payment or seed money for a company that is built and started up in the garage, as many have in the past. There are direct ties by study after study that are showing that home ownership is exactly that. Not only the way into the middle class for many people, and for many people, it's the only way into the middle class. Let's make sure we help those people. At a time of quickly rising rents, mortgage rates at a low all low time ho- whoops, sorry, at all-time lows, and increasing health wealth, a lot of young adults in their prime buying years are struggling to enter the market and are ultimately missing out on the stability and wealth accumulation that owning a home can provide. And again, maybe not everyone is ready to buy a home, and maybe they're not financially ready. Maybe they still want to be very mobile as their job is concerned. But those that are ready to settle down, let them settle down in a home of their own instead of, again, a home where they're paying the landlord's rent every month. We can still see that the vast majority of the country houses are on the market for less than 90 days. New home sales, we started out at an even match, but look what's happened since March. Month over month, we've done much better than we did last year, and people are starting to build right now, and they're starting to build the houses people need.